Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, will you be able to start the camera, Prabhuji?
Yeah, yes, please.
Are you ready, Prabhu?
Yeah, yes.
Hare Krishna devotees, Dandavat Pranam. Welcome to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Today we are very fortunate to have the association of His Grace Kaustubha Ramanuja Prabhu, who will be sharing the sweet nectar and instruction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the topic of Name Ruchi. Prabhuji, over to you, Prabhuji. You can go ahead and start the class.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody to the morning Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. Today we'll be discussing on the second limb of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, which is Name Ruchi. Yesterday I heard it that Vaishnava Seva topic was discussed. So all of us know Vaishnava Seva, Name Ruchi and Jive Dvaya are like the three limbs of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So we'll be discussing on the second limb today in this discussion. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swavadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everybody once again. So we're discussing on this topic of Name Ruchi, which is like the second limb of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. I have no qualification absolutely to discuss on this very exalted topic. Many of the members of the audience are much more qualified than me, but this service has been given to me for this today. So I'll try to share whatever I've heard from my seniors about this most important topic, most important limb of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So we'll go to one verse of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita to start with. I'm sharing my screen. Just give me a moment. So this is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 16th chapter, text number 70. I hope everybody is able to see the screen. So this is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 16th chapter, text number 70. So can we have one devotee recite this verse after me? Yes, yeah. One devotee can recite behind me. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Yeah. So we'll recite the verse now. Please repeat behind me, Mataji. प्रभु कहे वैष्णव सेवा नाम संकीर्तना।
प्रभु कहे वैष्णव सेवा नाम संकीर्तना।
दुई कर शीघ्र पावे श्री कृष्ण चरण।
दुई कर शीघ्र पावे श्री कृष्ण चरण।
प्रभु कहे वैष्णव सेवा नाम संकीर्तना।
प्रभु कहे वैष्णव सेवा नाम संकीर्तना।
दुई कर शीघ्र पावे श्री कृष्ण चरण।
दुई कर शीघ्र पावे श्री कृष्ण चरण।
प्रभु कहे वैष्णव सेवा नाम संकीर्तना।
प्रभु कहे वैष्णव सेवा नाम संकीर्तना।
दुई कर शीघ्र पावे श्री कृष्ण चरण।
दुई कर शीघ्र पावे श्री कृष्ण चरण। हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you, Mataji. Two other devotees can recite this verse.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम।
Please recite.
प्रभु कहे वैष्णव सेवा नाम संकीर्तना। दुई कर शीघ्र पावे श्री कृष्ण चरण। थैंक यू।
Thank you. Another devotee. Any other devotee would like to recite? Okay. So we'll go ahead and read the. We'll go directly to the translation. It is the word-to-word meaning is obvious, so I'll directly read the translation. Translation goes like this: The Lord replied, "You should engage yourself in the service of the servants of Krishna and always chant the holy name of Krishna. If you do these two things, you will very soon attain shelter at Krishna's lotus feet." So this particular episode in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is the conversation between a resident of Kulina Gram and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Many of us have already heard this pastime where the residents of Kulina Gram used to come every year from Bengal to Jagannath Puri in order to take the darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, meet him, and take instructions from him. So on 3 successive years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave, successive instructions regarding the holy name to the residents of Kulinagram. So this is the second time they are visiting. So first year they visited, the second year they visited, again the third year they visited. These 3 are documented in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the second time they visited, or the second year they visited, Mahaprabhu gave this instruction to the resident of Kulinagram. So before this verse, the 69th verse says that the resident of Kulinagram, who came actually with the entire entourage of devotees, including Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Shivananda Sen, and many others from Bengal to Jagannath Puri in order to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he went and approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and asked for instruction on what should I do in devotional service. And in response, Mahaprabhu is giving this instruction: Vaishnava Seva Nama Sankirtana. Prabhu Kahe. So generally in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhu refers to Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu is saying, Vaishnava Seva Nama Sankirtan Dui Kara. Just do these two things. Serve the Vaishnavas and engage yourself in Nama Sankirtan. Shighra Pabe. Very soon you will attain Shri Krishna's lotus feet. So after this verse, next two verses are also quite interesting. We'll read them also. So the 71st verse says, Te ho kahe ke Vaishnava ki tara lakshana, tabe hasi kahe Prabhu jani tara mana. So then again, the Te ho kahe means that resident of Kulinagram is again asking, who is a Vaishnava? Because you are telling me you do Vaishnava Seva and then chant the holy name. These two things are very, very important. You told me. So who is a Vaishnava and what is his Lakshana? What is his symptoms or characteristics? So then Mahaprabhu smiled lightly. Tabe hasi kahe Prabhu, smiled and laughed. And then Jani Taramana, he could understand, Mahaprabhu could understand the heart or the mind of the resident of Kulinagram. And therefore, he said the next verse. The next verse also quite an important verse. So let us go through this. Krishna Nama Nirantara Yahara Vadane Sei Vaishnava Shrestha Vajatahara Charane. So Mahaprabhu is giving the second advanced definition of a Vaishnava. So the previous year, the first time he visited, the resident of Kulinagram visited Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, the instruction that Mahaprabhu gave to this resident was that please know that he is a Vaishnava who at least once chants the name of Krishna. That means that anybody, he may be anybody coming from any background, if he simply takes the name of Krishna just once in his entire life, and even that can be, Sanketyam Parihasyam Vastobam Helanam Evava, as the 6th canto, Ajamila section says. He can take the name of Krishna indicatively, or he may, Parihasyam means he may jokingly take the name of Krishna any way. If he just once chants the name of Krishna, is a Vaishnava. That was the first definition he gave. Now, the second year, when the same president of Kulinagram is asking, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Krishna Nama Nirantara Yahara Vadane. The holy name of Krishna, which is constantly chanted in that person's mouth. Say Vaishnava Shrestha. He is a Vaishnava Shrestha. He is the best of Vaishnavas. Bhaja Tahara Charane, and one should worship his lotus feet. This is the second definition that Mahaprabhu is giving. So, in the purport to this verse is quite long. So, we will just read the first paragraph of this purport, which has quite important instructions that are given by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, the purport goes like this. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that any Vaishnava who is constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord should be considered to have attained the second platform of Vaishnavism. Such a devotee is superior to a neophyte Vaishnava who has just learned to chant the holy name of the Lord. A neophyte devotee simply tries to chant the holy name, whereas the advanced devotee is accustomed to chanting and takes pleasure in it. Such an advanced devotee is called a Madhyama Bhagavata, which indicates that he has attained the intermediate stage between the neophyte and the perfect devotee. Generally, a devotee in the intermediate stage becomes a preacher. A neophyte devotee or an ordinary person should worship the Madhyama Bhagavata, who is a Vaya medium. Yeah. So, just a second. This episode of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is very, very instructive to all of us. Why? Because Mahaprabhu is giving very, very apt instructions to this resident of Kulinagram. He says, Vaishnava Seva and Nama Sankirtan. Dui kare. Just do these two things and Shigra Pabe Shri Krishna Charana. Very soon you will attain the lotus feet of Krishna. As all of us know, the three limbs of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement are Nama Sankirtan or Name Ruchi, and Vaishnava Seva first, Name Ruchi second, and Jivedaya third. So interestingly here, Jivedaya is not mentioned by Mahaprabhu exactly, right? And the exact words are not used over here. It is explained that the first two limbs, that is Vaishnava Seva and Name Ruchi, are part of one's own sadhana. And when one is relishing these two processes, that means is relishing serving other devotees and is relishing to chant the holy name himself. And then he will, what will invoke in his heart as a natural result of these two will be Jivedaya. Jivedaya means compassion to other living entities. But if one is not naturally inclined towards helping other living entities, that means that he is not sufficiently practiced the first two limbs. That means that he is not sufficiently chanted the holy names, not sufficiently relishing the beauty and the sweetness of the holy names, and he is not relishing serving the other Vaishnavas, and therefore the Jivedaya is not evoking in his heart. Generally, when we preach also, it is generally done because of instruction of our superiors. We don't have that natural, compassion towards other living entities to preach. That is still good because we are following the instructions of our superiors. But when one is sufficiently advanced, preaching becomes natural because he is relishing the devotional service, is relishing Vaishnava Seva and Namaruchi so much that he simply wants to give this message out to others, right? So Mahaprabhu is actually giving these definitions of three types of Vaishnavas: Kanishtadikari, Madhyamadikari, and Uttamadikari. Interestingly, there are many different definitions according to different parameters. Like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu defines these three terms with different parameters. The Upadeshamrita or nectar of instruction defines with different parameters. But here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is defining Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama Adhikaris purely on the basis of chanting of the holy names. Right? So he says that a Kanishta Vaishnava is he who has at least once chanted the name of Krishna. It may not even be the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Simply the name of Krishna once, he is a Kanishta Vaishnava. And the Madhyama Vaishnava is one who is constantly chanting the holy name. He cannot stop chanting the holy names. So between Kanishta and the Madhyama itself, there is a huge gap. We can see that. And then the third year, when in another few verses in the same chapter, the same resident of Puninagram, when he came back the third time, what happened is mentioned. So the third year, when he came back, Mahaprabhu told him, he is a Vaishnava who, upon seeing whom others are inspired to chant Hare Krishna. So that is the quality of an Uttamadhikari. That's what Saraswati Thakur explains in Prabhupada quotes Saraswati Thakur in the purport. So Prabhupada always used to say that 99% of our advancement in devotional service depends on chanting. Right? So when many of the disciples asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada made it very clear that the entire movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revolves around chanting of the holy names, because it's a movement of Harinama Sankirtan. In fact, few months ago, His Grace Krishnananda Prabhu, all of us know Krishnananda Prabhu from Bombay, so he had shared one quote in which Prabhupada was saying that fools, absolute fools, they need philosophy, because they need some engagement for their mind and for their intelligence, and therefore they need philosophy. But the intelligent, they take only to the chanting of the holy names. This is one of the quotes for Srila Prabhupada Krishnananda Prabhu had shared. And when I read that, it was kind of I felt that I'm very far away from the standards that are expected. So fools need philosophy, but the intelligent just need the holy names, right? So all of us need the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam. Why? Because we don't have sufficient taste for the chanting of the holy names. When we have sufficient taste for the chanting of the holy names, we don't need anything else actually. And it's not that the person who is always chanting the holy names is not conversant with the philosophy. He knows the philosophy, he knows the highest philosophy, and therefore he is engaging in chanting the holy names day in and day out. Right? So there are many references to this topic of Name Ruchi in our Shastras. One of the most famous Vaishnava songs that was written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Udilo Aruna Purava Bhage, Vijamani Gaura Amani Jage. So that Vaishnava song actually captures the essence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Udila Aruna Purava Bhage. Purava in Bengali is Purva. Purva means eastern direction. So as the sun rises in the eastern direction, Udila means to rise. So as the sun, Aruna is the sun. So as the sun rises in the eastern direction, Dvijamani Gaura Amani Jage. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wakes up, and not just he wakes up, but he wakes up all the living entities, and he takes everybody along with him in Sankirtan. And how does it take everybody in Sankirtan is also described. Thatai bhajana kol, ghana ghana tahe jajhe roll. Like that, all the instruments that are used in Mahaprabhu's movement are also described. Khol is actually mridanga. So the mridanga that we use is actually traditionally called khol in Bengal. And along with that, there are the khartas, jhanjera roll. So like that, there is a host of instruments that goes along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan, and Mahaprabhu takes everybody to the streets of Navadvip in order to chant the holy names and deliver everybody. And the last verse of that particular Vaishnava song says, Krishna Nam Sudha Kariyapan Judao Bhakati Vinoda Pran Nama Bina Kichu Nahi Ko Ar Chauda Bhuvana Majhe. So this captures the essence of Harinam Sankirtan. He says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Krishna Nam Sudha Kariyapan. Sudha is nectar. So Mahaprabhu is telling to all the living entities, Krishna Nam Sudha Kariyapan. Please drink. Pan means drink. Drink the nectar of the holy names of Krishna. Judao Bhakati Vinoda Pran. Nama Bina Kichu Nahi Ko Ara. Without the holy name, actually, there is nothing within the 14 planetary systems. Chauda Bhuvana Maje. The 14 planetary systems which comprise this Brahmanda, there is nothing without the, except for the holy name, there is nothing, no substance in the entire 14 planetary systems. That's how Bhakti Vinod Thakur describes, right? So many of us, we might have heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave philosophy to the masses and Harinam Sankirtan to the, philosophy to the classes and Harinam Sankirtan to the masses, right? This is especially clear when Mahaprabhu went to the South Indian Yatra and to different places. He traveled for 6 years, right? So Mahaprabhu took sannyas in the year 1510, and till 1516 he was traveling basically. For first 2 years he went to South India, and then he was traveling to Bengal. He went to Vrindavan. He came to Varanasi, Prayag, to many different places. So we see that in South India especially, he engaged in philosophical discussion with very greatly qualified persons like Ramananda Rai or Venkata Bhatta, or when he went to Prayagraj or Varanasi, he engaged in philosophical discussion with Prakashananda Saraswati, because they were the classes, and therefore he gave the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva to all these class people of the classes. But to the general populace, to the people in general, he gave Harinam Sankirtan. So, though this is true, but ultimately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's aim was to give Harinam Sankirtan only to everybody, right? Because even though he discussed high philosophy with Prakashananda Saraswati and the 60,000 sannyasis in Varanasi, for example, but still at the end of all, what Mahaprabhu gave to Prakashananda Saraswati was Harinam Sankirtan only. Everything dissolved to just the chanting of the holy names. So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's goal was to give the chanting of the holy names to everybody, not just to a select few, but to everybody. His main aim and his main mission was Harinam Sankirtan, right? And amongst all the sampradayas also, we see that the Gaudiya Sampradaya, Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya stresses on chanting of the holy names the maximum, right? In other sampradayas, we may not even see people chanting on beats, but we have the concept of beats. Why do we chant on beats? That is also explained. Sankhya Purvaka Namagana Natibihi Kalavasani Kritau. The 6 Goswamis, when they used to chant, they used to keep count when they used to chant. One senior devotee was telling me recently that why do we have to keep count? Because otherwise, although we might have chanted just 8 rounds, our mind will tell that we have chanted 16 rounds. Because we don't have a taste for the chanting of the holy names. So if we don't keep count when we are chanting, we will be fooling ourselves most of the time. By chanting simply 8 rounds, we think that we have chanted 12 rounds or 16 rounds, right? So even Mahaprabhu used to keep count when he used to chant. The Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that Mahaprabhu used to chant on his right beats and with his left, with his right hand. Mahaprabhu used to chant with his right hand, and on his left hand used to keep count, right? So in Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya especially, we see that there is a lot of stress on the chanting of the holy names. And therefore, there are so many japa seminars and japa webinars that are organized very often, because the entire process that Mahaprabhu has given us actually depends on chanting of the holy names. Of course, Mahaprabhu's mission was actually prioritized by the Srimad Bhagavatam. That famous verse indicates that Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Kumartho Mahan. That is that the philosophy that Mahaprabhu gave, what is the pramana for that? What is the proof for that? The proof is the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore Mahaprabhu stressed that there is no scripture more than the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Kumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhor Matamidam. This is the mata, or this is the final verdict of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tatra Dharana Paraha. So there is nothing higher than that. So for all Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the ultimate pramana is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, if we study the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, what is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam? What is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam? How can we know the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Jiva Goswami, in one of his literature called the Shat Sandarbhas, he quotes one very famous verse that are used often by acharyas to understand what is the essence or the sum and substance of a particular scripture. This verse is actually very famous. It is quoted by many acharyas across sampradayas. So we can use the same formula that Jiva Goswami gives. In fact, Jiva Goswami has already used the same formula and proved in his Shat Sandarbhas what the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is. So what is that verse? The verse goes like this. Upakramopasamharo abhyaso purvata phalam arthavadopapattishta lingam tatparya nirnaye. This is a very famous verse which talks about how we can find out the essence of a particular scripture. For example, if we have the Bhagavad Gita with us, which contains 700 verses and 18 chapters, how can we find out the essence of this Bhagavad Gita? The essence of the Bhagavad Gita can be found out by analyzing 7 particular parameters. And not just the Bhagavad Gita, any particular scripture, we can apply this formula that is given by the Shastras. I don't know from where this verse has come, but many acharyas actually quote this. So what does the verse say? Lingam tatparya nirnaye. If you want to find out the tatparya or the sum and substance of a particular scripture, you need to understand, or you need to analyze rather, these 7 factors. What are the 7 factors? Jiva Goswami says the first one is upakrama. Upakrama means the beginning of that particular scripture. What is the main topic that is discussed in the beginning of that particular scripture? Then second is upasamhara. Upasamhara is the last or the end or the conclusion of that particular scripture. So what is stressed in that particular scripture at the end, at the conclusion of that particular scripture? Then he says upakramopasamharo abhyasa. Upakramopasamharo abhyasaha. Abhyasaha means that what is repeated again and again in the scripture. Because even though the beginning and end may say the same thing of that particular scripture, but what is repeated again and again also matters. That goes to show the essence. So abhyasaha. Then fourth factor is apurvata. In which topic or the unique meanings. Apurvata means unique. So what topic stresses unique meanings that are given by that Shastra, or in which topic are unique meanings given in that particular Shastra. That is the fourth factor. The fifth factor is aphalam. Phalam means the phalashruti, right? What does this scripture say that the fruit of reading this particular scripture is, right? So what is the fruit of reading this particular scripture is mentioned in the same scripture. So what is the fruit? That is the sixth factor. Then the seventh factor, that is the fifth factor. So the sixth factor is apurvata phalam arthavadaha. Arthavadaha means that in which aspect of the scripture are praiseworthy statements given. Or in other words, what does this Shastra praise as the essence of everything? That is the sixth factor. And finally, the seventh factor. The seventh factor is that upapattihi. Upapatti means logical statements. So logical statements are also given in which aspect. So these 7 factors are taken into consideration when we have to analyze the essence of a particular scripture. Now, if we apply this formula that is given to Srimad Bhagavatam, we can very easily understand what is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So this can be applied to multiple scriptures. But now, because our main motto is Srimad Bhagavatam, so we can apply that formula to Srimad Bhagavatam and understand what is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So now, when we apply this formula, we can see what the result will be. For example, upakrama. Upakrama means what? Upakrama is the beginning. So what is stressed in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam? The chanting of the holy names comes even right at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, because right in the 14th verse of the first chapter of the first canto, the sages of Naimisharanya, when they are talking with Sutta Goswami, they say, Apannaha samsritim ghoram yannama vivasho grinan tatasadyo vimuccheta yad vibheti swayam bhayam. They say. What does this mean? It means that those people who are entangled, Apannaha samsritim. Samsriti means those who are entangled in the complicated meshes of samsara. Apannaha samsritim ghoram yannama vivashaha grinan. Even if they take the holy names very unconsciously, even then So they are entangled in the complicated meshes of samsara. But even such people, if they take the names of the Lord, even unconsciously, vivashogrunan tata sadyo vimuchyeta, in very soon they will get deliverance. So this is stressed right at the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So the beginning of the Bhagavatam itself, there is the glorification of chanting the holy names of the Lord. And now if we go to the last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Anybody knows the last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam? I know many know the last verse, right? It's a very famous verse. What is the last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam? If I can ask this august assembly. Anybody knows the last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam? It comes in the 12th canto, 3rd chapter, 13th. Yeah. Yes.
Nama Sankirtana Justice Sarva Proper Pranashana. Is it that wrong?
Yes. Thank you very much, Guruji. This comes as the 23rd verse of the 13th chapter of the 12th canto, which is the last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this says, Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanaha Tam Namami Harim Param. So this again is glorifying the chanting of the holy names. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam. That Sankirtan itself destroys all the sinful reactions of living entities. And therefore, Tam Namami Harim Param. I offer my obeisances to the name of the Supreme Lord. Right? This is how the Bhagavatam ends. One of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada mentions how Sri Bhagavad Gita starts with confusion. Right? Arjuna is confused about his duties. And it ends with surrender. When he says, Karishye Vachanam Tava. Right? Nashto Moha Smritir Labdha Tvat Prasadat Mayachyuta Sthitosmi Gata Sandeha Karishye Vachanam Tava. This is the verse in which Arjuna indicates his surrender. So Bhagavad Gita starts with confusion and ends with surrender. Now Srimad Bhagavatam starts with surrender, right? When Parikshit Maharaj is actually surrendering his life to the hands of Shukadeva Goswami. So Bhagavatam starts with surrender but ends with the chanting of the holy names, right? So the chanting of the holy names is like the fruit of the Srimad Bhagavatam also. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is just the Harinam Sankirtan. It starts with Harinam Sankirtan, and of course the last chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita is the Shikshashtakam, which are the 8 divine instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see that there is simply Harinam Sankirtan everywhere. Right? So now Upakrama and Upasamhara. Now coming back to our analysis of the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, we analyze that in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the mention of the glory of the holy names, and the end, the last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam also glorifies the holy names. Right? Now, the third factor that this verse says is Abhyasaha. Abhyasa means what is repeated again and again in the same scripture. We see that throughout the 10 cantos, there is glorification of the holy names, in every canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, if not in every chapter, if not in every verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? I would just like to mention a few verses to just indicate how the chanting of the holy names is actually a repetitive theme in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the first canto, we already saw Apannaha Samsritim Ghoram, and there are many other verses in the first canto as well, which glorify the holy names. In the second canto, there are many verses again. In the 11th verse of the first chapter of the second canto, Shukadeva Goswami says. So in the first canto, Shukadeva Goswami doesn't speak, but in the second canto, he starts speaking, right? So he says, Etan nirvidyamananam ichchata mukuto bhayam yoginam nripanirnitam harer namanukirtanam. Very famous verse. Etan nirvidyamananam ichchatam akuto bhayam. This is decided by all transcendentalists. What is decided by all transcendentalists? Harer namanukirtanam. And who all does that transcendentalists include? Nirvidyamananam, those who have nothing to do with material existence. In other words, those who are impersonalists, right? Next, yoginam, those who are yogis. And ichchata makuto bhayam, those who have all kinds of ichcha. That means those who are even materialists. But if they need fearlessness in their life, Harer Namanu Kirtanam is the only way. That means chanting of the holy names is the only way. Right? So this comes as a part of the second canto. In the third canto, there are many episodes that describe the chanting of the holy names. But towards the end of the third canto, in the 33rd chapter, in the Kapila Devahuti Samvada, And towards the end of that samvad also, Devahuti, when she is speaking her realizations after hearing the entire Sankhya philosophy from Kapila Muni, she says two very, very famous verses in regards to chanting of the holy names. What are they? The first one is Yannamadheya Shavananu Kirtanad Yat Prahvanad Yat Smaranad Apikvachit Shvadopi Sadhya Savanaya Kalpate Kutapunaste Bhagavannu Darshanat. So this is a beautiful glorification where she says that Yan Namadheya, Namadheya is the chanting of the holy names. Shravana Anukirtanat, one who hears and one who constantly repeats the holy name of Krishna. Yat Prahvanat, Yat Smaranat Apikvachit, one who remembers the chanting of the holy names and one who offers obeisances to the holy names. Yat Prahvanat means one who offers obeisances to the holy names. Shvadopi Satyah Samanaya Kalpate. Even if he be a dog eater, he can be elevated to the position of a person who can perform sacrifices. Savanaya kalpate, kutapunaste bhagavannu darshanat. What to speak of those persons who actually can realize the chanting of the holy names and actually take the darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a beautiful glorification. And the next verse also, Devahuti says another very, very famous verse. Aho batashvapachoto gariyan Yajjihvagre Vartate Namatubhyam Te Pustakaste Juhuvushnurarya Brahmanuchur Namagridanti Yete. Yajjihva Agre. Jihva means the tongue. Yajjihva Agre means the tip of the tongue. They are glorious. Even though they be born in the families of dog eaters, they are much better than those Brahmanas who simply engage in Karma Kanda rituals. And what is the qualification of that particular Chandala who is born in a Chandala family? But he is actually engaging in chanting the holy names on the tip of his tongue. Jat jihvagre vartate tubhyam nama. Tubhyam means yours. So Devahuti understands that Kapila Muni is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore she says that your name, the person who chants your name on the tip of his tongue, even though he be born in a Chandala family, is much better than those Brahmanas who simply engage in Karma Kanda rituals. Right? In the fourth canto, in the Dhruva Maharaj section, there is a very famous verse where when Dhruva goes to fight the Yaksha demons, at that time many sages come in order to pray for the well-being of Dhruva. Right? This comes in the 10th chapter of the 4th canto. And there they say, Yannamadheyam abhidaya nishamya chatha lokonjasa tarati dustara manga mrutyum. One who hears the abhidaya. Abhidaya means one who hears with attention, with rapt attention. Yannamadheyam nishamya cha adha. One who continuously and with rapt attention hears the holy names of the Lord. Lokaha anjasa tarati. He can very easily cross over the samsara bandhana. He can very easily cross over the ocean of material existence. Though it is actually very, very difficult to cross over. Dustaram means actually very difficult to cross over. But the one who takes shelter of the chanting of the holy names, he can very easily cross over. So this is the kind of an advice also that the sages give to Dhruva Maharaj in the 4th canto. Right? We see that. In the 5th canto, right at the beginning, when Priyavrat Maharaj's pastime is described, then Priyavrat Maharaj's potency in ruling over the kingdom is described in relation to chanting of the holy names. This is 5.135, where it is mentioned, Naivam Midha Purushakara Urukramasya Pumsam Tadangri Rajasa Jita Shadgunanam Chitram Vidura Vigataha Sakridadadita Yannamadheya Adhuna Sajahati Bandham. One who chants the holy names of the Lord, Adhuna, immediately or in very, very near future, he can give up all bondage to material activities. Why? Because Naivam Vidha Purushakara Urukramasya Pumsam Tadangri Rajasa Jita Shadgunanam. Why? Because they can very easily conquer their lower nature. Those who chant the holy names repetitively, they can very easily conquer their lower nature. Jita Shadgunanam. Chitram Vidura Vigataha Sagradadadita, and there is no surprise in this. Chitram means that surprising. That they are saying that there is no big surprise in this. That people who chant the holy names, they can very easily conquer their 6 anarthas and very easily they can give up material bondage. In the sixth canto, the very, very famous section, which entirely indicates the chanting, the glory of the chanting of the holy names, right? Which all of us know is the first three chapters of the sixth canto, the Ajamila Upakhyan, right? The entire pastime or the context of that pastime is chanting of the holy names, right? So at the conclusion, when Yamaraj is talking about chanting of the holy names with the Yamadutas, the Yamaraj says to the Yamadutas, Niyamano Harer Nama Grinan Putropacharitam Ajamilopyagadhama Kimuta Shraddhaya Grinan. This is actually told by the Vishnu Dutas, not by Yamaraj. So when the Vishnu Dutas are conversing with the Yamadutas, at the end of their conversation, they mention this particular verse. Priyamana Harer Nama, the one who was about to die, Ajamila, Harer Nama Grinan. He took the name of Hari, which is Narayana. Putra Upacharitam, although he didn't indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he actually took the holy name just to indicate his own son, the youngest son, who was just 8 years old at that time. And Ajamila was 88 years old, it is described, right? So he just took the name to indicate his own son, Ajamilo Pyagadhama, and just by indicating his son, he actually got delivered from all sinful reactions. And finally, because of his second chance that he got, he practiced devotional service very intensely and he went back to Godhead. Kimuta Shraddhaya Grinan. And what to speak of people who take the holy name with great faith, right? So Kimuta, this is a Kaimutyanaya that is used in many places in the Bhagavatam. So this is the sixth canto, very, very famous pastime, which indicates the chanting of the holy names glories, right? Seventh canto, of course, we know that very famous verse, Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho Smaranam Pada Sevanam, in which Srila Prabhupada writes a very big purport. I guess this comes as maybe 7.6 or 7.7 purport. And there, Prabhupada gives a very elaborate purport on each of these limbs of devotional service. And as far as Kirtanam is concerned, he elaborates a lot. He takes many, many references that other acharyas give, and he elaborates a lot on this topic. In the eighth canto, there is a very famous pastime of Bali Maharaj, where towards the end of that pastime, when Vamana appears and then he conquers all the three worlds, and then finally he is conversing with Shukracharya, because all of us know that Shukracharya was not at all inclined for Bali Maharaj to give all his kingdom. No, of course not the kingdom at that point in time. He's not inclined to give any word to Vamanadev, right? He was forbidding Bali Maharaj from giving any promise to Vamanadev. But in spite of that, he went against his own guru and he gave the promise, and we know the entire pastime unfolded. At the end, Vamana, as Lord Vishnu, he converses with Shukracharya. And then he asks him, what is the fault in this entire process that happened today, right? Today, of course, the great yajna was going on. I came in between. It seemed as if I disturbed, and then I conquered all the three worlds. Bali Maharaj is now actually going to hell. From an external point of view, this may be the thing. This may be the situation. So what is the fault that I have committed? And then Shukracharya, as a mature, as a mature fruit of his own realization, he says a very famous verse. He says, Mantratas tantratas tidram deshakalarha vastutaha sarvam karoti nishtidram anusankirtanam tava. So although Shukracharya was forbidding our Bali Maharaj from giving any promise to Vamanadev before, now after the entire thing got over, he is saying this particular verse where glorification of the holy names is mentioned. He says, Mantrataha tantrataha chidram. There may be some fallacy, or there may be some mistakes while reciting the Vedic mantras. Mantrataha. Tantrataha means while executing the rituals, there may be some mistakes. Desha kalharha vastutaha, because the time may not be proper, the place may not be proper, or the circumstances may not be proper. And therefore, there is very rare that a yajna is fully 100% successful. But any person who takes chanting of the holy names, that holy names will make sure that all the fallacies and all the mistakes of that particular yajna, or that particular person who is performing the yajna, are well taken care of, right? So therefore, Prabhupada used to always stress that there cannot be any simply yajna in ISKCON, right? Even if we do a yajna in ISKCON, that has to be always accompanied by the chanting of the holy names. And what is the pramana for that? This is a pramana, because Shukracharya himself is saying, who himself is a very established karma kandiya. He says that no ritual or no mantra can be perfect without chanting of the holy names, right? So similarly, in the 9th canto, we see 10th canto, 11th canto, there is shortage of time, so I don't want to go to all these cantos. I am sure all of you are very, very well read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore all of you know have so many pramanas which indicates the chanting of the holy names, right? And in the 12th canto again, towards the end, the same thing which we quoted in the beginning is mentioned. So abhyasaha, repetitively chanting of the holy names is mentioned. Apurvata means unique meanings are given in reference to the chanting of the holy names. For example, in the 2nd canto, when Shukadeva Goswami is offering his prayers, before reciting, before beginning to answer the questions of Parikshita Maharaj, he says very, very famous verse, Kirata Gunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumbha Yamana Kasadayaha Yenye Chapapa Yadapashayashrayaha Shudhyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. Any person in any family, he may have taken his birth. Irrespective of the family of his birth, he may be a Kirata, he may be a Huna, he may be a Andhra. All this has specific meanings which Srila Prabhupada has established, has explained in the purport, right? He may be a Pulinda, he may be a Pulkasha. It refers to different races across the world, right? So, Yenecha Papa Yadapashrayashrayaha, whatever sinful activities they may have committed, they can be completely purified when they simply chant the holy names of Vishnu, Prabhavishnave Namaha. So this is like a unique meaning that is given to the chanting of the holy names in the Bhagavatam. So abhyasaha apurvata phalam. Phalam is the fruit. The fruit is again mentioned in the last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we already quoted. So the upasamhara and the phalam is actually the same in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The upasamhara is the last verse and the phalam is also mentioned in the last verse, right? So the phala shruti indicates that chanting of the holy names itself is the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then two other factors that come into question over here are abhyasaha apurvata phalam, arthavadaha. Arthavada means praiseworthy statements, right? Praiseworthy statements are also indicated in the Srimad Bhagavatam with respect to chanting of the holy names. Just like in the 2nd canto, when the sages of Naimisharyan describe different aspects of devotional service. They say, Tadashmasaram Hridayam Patedam Yadgrihyamanir Harinamadheyaihi Navikriyeta Atha Yada Vikaro Netre Jalam Gatra Ruheshu Harshaha. This is another very famous verse, which the language of this verse itself is so beautiful. Tad Ashmasaram, that heart is certainly steel framed. Tad Hridayam Ashmasaram. Hridayam means the heart. That heart is certainly steel framed, which upon chanting the holy names, even with concentration, na vikriyeta ata yada vikaro, there is no change in that heart, and there is no tears that are flowing from the eyes, and there are no symptoms of ecstasy that take place in the body. That means that if one chants the holy name with ecstasy, with concentration, and there are no ecstatic symptoms that appear or manifest in that particular person's body, that means that that person's heart is certainly steel framed, right? So this goes to establish the beautiful process of chanting of the holy names, right? And there are many other verses which actually glorify and praise, where as if there are 10 mouths, as if the Shastras have 10 mouths, right? The chanting of the holy names. And then the final factor that comes into question is upapattihi. Upapatti means logical statements, right? So logical statements in the Srimad Bhagavatam are also indicated with respect to the chanting of the holy names. For example, going back to the 6th canto, in the 2nd chapter, right at the beginning, when the Vishnu Dutas begin their conversation with the Yamudutas, they say, Ayam hi krita nirvesho janma kotyam hasamapi yad vyajahara vivasho nama swastyayanam harehe. So the Yamadutas were giving material logic that this Ajamila actually has been so very sinful, and it is very becoming that we are taking this person to the hellish planetary systems in order to be punished. And there is no surprise in this. What is surprising and why are you stopping us? And immediately the Vishnu Dutas say this verse. They say that Ayam hi krita nirveshaha. This Ajamila is actually already performed. He has already performed atonement, right? That is a word that Srila Prabhupada uses. He has already performed atonement for hundreds and thousands of sinful activities. What to speak of just this lifetime? He has atoned for hundreds and thousands of lifetimes just by chanting the holy names of the Lord. Janma koti amhasamapi. So not even thousands. There they are saying koti means crores of lifetimes. Whatever sinful activities he might have performed, he has atoned already for them by. Because yad vivashaha vyajahara, because even unconsciously he chanted the names of Narayana, Namaswastyayanam Harehe, and therefore you are not qualified to take him to the Narakaloka or to the hellish planetary systems. This is the spiritual logic that this entire pastime talks about, right? So there is a material logic and there is a spiritual logic. Right? So logical statements in the Srimad Bhagavatam also indicate the chanting of the holy names. And therefore, the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, we can say, is actually Name Ruchi. Right? So just to repeat, the 7 factors that were considered in order to analyze the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The first one was Upakrama, or the beginning. Second one was Upasamhara, or the end. Third one was Abhyasa, or the repetitive discussion within the particular scripture. Fourth one was Apurvata, or unique meanings. Fifth one was Phala, or the fruit of that particular scripture, in our case the Srimad Bhagavatam. The sixth one was Arthavadha, or praiseworthy and glorifying statements in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the final factor was Upapattihi. Upapatti means the logical statements within the Srimad Bhagavatam. So all these 7 factors, when anybody understands or analyzes, we can very easily conclude that the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam is chanting of the holy names, Name Ruchi. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his main aim was to preach the glories of Harinam Sankirtan. I will just conclude with this one particular pastime that is immediately coming to my mind. All of us have heard this pastime, I'm sure, that when Srila Rupa Goswami composed that very, very famous verse on chanting of the holy names. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not aware of that actually, but when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the kutir of Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami in Jagannath Puri when they were staying together, he just happened to chance upon that verse. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so happy to understand that Rupa Goswami has actually understood the mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that verse is a very, very famous verse which indicates the glories of chanting of the holy names like nobody else has done ever before, right? Tunde Tandavini Ratim Vitanute Tundavali Labdhaye Karnakroda Kadambini Gatayate Karnar Budebhyas Prham Cheta Prangana Sanghini Vijayate Sarvendriyanam Kritim No Jane Janita Kiyadbhiramrutaihi Krishneti Varnadvayi. Krishna iti Varnadvayi. 2 syllables that this word Krishna has, right? So 2 syllables. What are the 2 syllables? Krish and Na. So I don't know how much of madhurya or how much of sweetness is contained within these 2 syllables of Krishna. Because when I chant this name of Krishna, I desire Tunde Tandavini Ratim Vitanute. Tundavali Labdhaye. Avali means that I desire thousands and thousands of mouths, because with just one mouth I am not sufficiently able to chant and appreciate the chanting of the holy names. And then he says in the next line, Karna Kroda Kadambini Ghatayate, Karnar Budebhyas Prham. Arbuda means crores. So when the same chanting of the holy name that came out of my mouth, when that enters my ears, I desire crores and crores of ears. Why? Because with just 2 years, I'm not able to appreciate the chanting of the holy names. And then when through the ears it enters my heart, I can feel that all my senses, Sarvendriyanam Kritim, all my senses, all my sense organs are completely rejuvenated just by chanting the holy name of Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so very pleased with Srila Rupa Goswami, right, when he heard this particular verse. So this is the essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So Vaishnava Seva, Name Ruchi. When we engage in these 2 processes, very sincerely, and then Jivedaya will automatically manifest, right? It is not that till the time Jivedaya manifests, we should not preach. We should preach on the instruction of our superiors till then. But after that, when we have natural taste for Vaishnava Seva and natural taste for chanting of the holy names, that is Name Ruchi, after that, naturally, we will have a taste for Jivedaya also. Right now, we may not have, natural compassion for other living entities. Even though we have compassion, most of the times it is just material compassion. Somebody is hungry, somebody is, lying on the street. That is simply material compassion. But on the platform of the soul, we are not compassionate. Why? Because we are not engaging sufficiently in Vaishnava Seva and Name Ruchi. So when one engages in Vaishnava Seva and Name Ruchi with a sincere heart, he will have as a consequence of that, he will surely have Jivedaya, that is compassion for all the living entities. And Srila Prabhupada took this movement to the West because of Jivedaya. And before Jivedaya, he had he had sufficiently engaged himself in Vaishnava Seva and Name Ruchi, right? So His Grace Amarendra Prabhu was once saying that when Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, one of the Babajis was telling later on, when after Srila Prabhupada left the world, that he used to chant close to 100 rounds every day. I didn't know that, but I heard from him once. So he had come full taste in the chanting of the holy names, and therefore he could take this movement, and his preaching was effective. So we are almost reached the time. So I'm very grateful to all the members of this August Assembly for giving me an opportunity on the occasion of Shri Gaur Purnima tomorrow. I could speak on this very important topic of Name Ruchi. If I have committed any offenses or mistakes while presenting this topic, I seek forgiveness from this August Assembly. Many of the things that I've told is completely beyond my realization. I just made a note of some things that I had heard from my superiors and just shared with everybody over here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Grantharaj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for amazing and wonderful nectar. It was actually kind of a river that was flowing across without any, obstruction. So beautiful class, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Especially the way you explained the pramana of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's statement with respect to the Name Ruchi was very, very inspiring. So I'd like to request all other devotees to unmute your mic and share your questions or realizations or comments that you may have.
Hare Krishna Prabhu is wonderful. It is like how Kunti Devi says, how that the river flows without any deviation to the ocean. It went, but the problem, we don't know many things, Prabhu. It was the many verses which you told, right from the Jiva Goswami's verse, we don't know. If you can make a brief notes and give us, it will be very useful for us. Because I tried to quickly jot down and refer, but it was too much. Even the last verse, that Rupa, is that the same verse which he writes and puts it on top of the roof in a paper, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says? It's the same.
Yes, Mataji. This pastime is actually told in the first chapter of the Antyalila. That verse that he puts on top of the roof, that is actually another verse which described Rupa Goswami's understanding Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind, because during the Rath Yatra, Mahaprabhu was reciting a particular verse, which the meaning of which only Swarup Damodar Goswami could understand. But Rupa Goswami could also understand it. He wrote another verse as an explanation to that particular verse. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the kutir of Rupa Goswami, he saw that. So it was that verse. But after a few days, again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the kutir of Rupa Goswami, and there he chanced upon this verse. And this verse is a very, very famous verse. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that this verse of glorification of the holy name describes the holy name like nobody else and no other verse has done ever before. Like that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
So you help us, Prabhu. You just make a small notes and give us. If you
Sure,
don't.
sure.
Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, thank you so much for the very wonderful class. It was very soothing to the ears and it was nourishing, full of nectar. It was such a nectarian lecture. Thank you again, Prabhu. And also pray for me, especially, so that I can also become a good devotee and progress in Krishna consciousness, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. I
Hare
seek
Krishna,
your
Prabhu.
Hare Shankar. Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams. Thank you for the nectarian class, Prabhu. As Rani Mataji said, please make a small thing for us to go through it again, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranams.
Mataji. I will send it.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. After a very long time, we are hearing from you. And I was so happy that how Jivadaya will come. So we have to do Vaishnav Seva and then Nam Sankirtan, only then Jivadaya automatically it will come. So it really touched my heart because we always used to think it will never come in my life. So yeah, maybe gradually after hearing your classes, maybe the Tankura will come. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the nectarian class.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay. So I guess we are on time. Should we stop here, Prabhuji?
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, Kaustubha Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Then the pronouns. So wonderful. So nice it was to hear from you, as usual. Prabhu, actually, just one quick question I had. So when we were talking about Nama Ruchi and Jivadaya, which is first and then how one leads to another? I mean, I think you elaborated, but if you could just quickly touch on that, it will be nice.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. So according to this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Vaishnava Seva and Nama Sankirtan, he gives equal importance to both of them. I didn't find any particular verse or any particular point in the purport which indicated that either Vaishnava Seva leads to Nama Sankirtan or Nama Sankirtan leads to Vaishnava Seva. But what is made clear in the purport is that both of them surely lead to Jivedaya. That is made clear by Saraswati Thakur in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 1672 purport. Very clearly Saraswati Thakur says about that. But about Vaishnava Seva and Nama Sankirtan, Mahaprabhu is telling here to the resident of Kulina Grama that you should engage in both of them. So equal weightage seems to be given to both. Though Vaishnava Seva is mentioned before Nama Sankirtan also, but equal weightage seems to be given to both. In other sampradayas also we may see Vaishnava Seva is given more importance also, but at least in the Gaudiya Sampradaya it seems that equal importance is given to both. That's what my understanding is. If any other well-read devotee wants to share their understanding, please do share.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I wanted to share one more thing. I heard your complete lecture and complete Ramayana, Prabhu. So nice it was. And now got this opportunity to hear your class. So nice, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Sanatma Balaram Prabhu,
Just a small
share
last
comment. Actually, on Saturday, we have a class that actually consolidates all the three limbs that will be going, through that we went through today and yesterday and tomorrow as well. And we'll have a holistic understanding of all the three limbs together, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Prabhu, who is this? Sankarshna.
We can't hear you properly, Mataji.
Who's the speaker, Prabhu, on Saturday?
His Grace Arjun Saka, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you.
There are no questions. Again, thank you very much, Prabhu, for sharing the nectar and sharing your realization as well. So we will end today's session with the Vaishnava Pranam. Vancha Kalpatarubhyas. So tomorrow morning we will have class through Zoom from 7:15 to 8:15 on the third limb, and evening we will have festival class by His Grace Suvarna Gaura Hari Prabhu. So Hare Krishna. Pranam. We'll end the class today.
Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo anantakoti vaishnavabhundehi jai. Vaishnav Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanand. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Dandot Pranam.
Haribo.